Welcome back to Riqueza podcast. I'm your host, Lia Landaverde, the Latina Wealth Activist, and today we have a pretty great conversation. We're going to be talking about high yield savings accounts and why they're the big hype right now and what you need to do about it with your personal finances. Now, if you don't know what a high yield savings account is, it's pretty much a high interest savings account. So your traditional banks like Chase, JP Morgan, right? That's one. Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Citibank. Most of the time, they give you a savings account with your traditional checking, but the interest is like 0.01 or 0.03% on your savings account. So what you put in, you get 0.03%, which ends up being like a few pennies per year. The goal with a high yield savings account is to save up to 1 or 2, 3 years of cash that you need to save. So cash that you're going to use in 1 to 3 years, essentially. Now, high yield savings account, the beautiful thing about high yield savings account is they're typically offered through online banking institutions like Ally Bank, like Marcus, like now Apple Card is now offering a 4.25% high yield savings account. We have Ally, I think it's 3.75. We have even WealthFront. WealthFront is a robo-advising platform, and essentially they have a high yield savings account as well. And if you refer someone, the interest rate goes even up. So that being said, a high yield savings account is a traditional savings account, but with high interest. That interest is variable, though. That interest can change. As we've seen in the last 6 months to a year, we have seen the interest rate of high yield savings account increase. It has gone from what I remember was like 1.5, then it went up to like 1.75, then 2, then 3. We're getting close to the 4s, and some are at 4%. Why is this happening? Is essentially when the Federal Reserve, so the big bank of America, decides to increase interest rates in order to fight inflation, which it has been doing the last few years since the pandemic. It tackles that by increasing interest rates. Those interest rates that they increase also impact your regular banking institution interest rates, but your traditional banks are not increasing that interest rate for you. Online savings account, these high yield savings accounts are actually the ones that are changing interest rates over time. So let's say if the Federal Reserve decides to reduce interest rates, your high yield savings account will also reduce in interest. But that does not mean the interest that you've earned in the past is going to change. No, what you earned in the past is going to stay, but what you earn in the future will vary. Now, high yield savings accounts are the big rage. We have Capital One launching one. We have now Apple Bank launching one, and everyone's talking about it, right? I think high yield savings accounts are essential. 100% think they're necessary in your financial system. In your own personal wallet, you need a high yield savings account. You should not be using your traditional bank savings account, nor should you be working with them anyways if they're giving you 0.03% on your savings account. Especialmente la gente latina, nuestra gente, nuestros padres que tienen cuentas bancarias con la Bank of America o con otros bancos grandes que no saben sobre el interés de un high yield savings account. This is your job to teach them. This is your job to help them move their money. Because if your parents are not investing, most likely they won't be. They're fearful of investing. It's okay. We understand. There's only so much we can change with that. But if you want to apply it for yourself or for your family members, a high yield savings account is a great option to store money. Now, like I mentioned earlier, the goal is to only have it up to only have money stored there that you're going to need for up to 3 years. After 3 years, if you're like, okay, I have $10,000, I don't need more than that. I think that's what $10,000 per year, or that's my home deposit for my future home, whatever. After that, you should be investing money. Okay, you need to be investing money after that because your cash is important, yes, to be invested in a high yield savings account, but it will grow exponentially if it's invested in the stock market. Now, that being said, your high yield savings account is critical to your financial system, right? Because that is where we're going to store your emergency fund. We can store your home purchase fund. We can store buying a car fund. We can store for essentially anything that you need for the next 3 years. Baby fund if you really wanted to. Growing at an interest rate of around 3.75 to 4% currently. Okay. Now, how do I feel about all these institutions launching and even non-institutions, aka Apple, is launching a high yield savings account. Essentially, to get access to this high yield savings account, you need to have an Apple Card, which means you need to have a credit card. They're also pairing up with Marcus because Apple Card is tied to Goldman Sachs and Marcus. So the thing that I have a problem with is essentially these institutions are doing it for a reason. Okay, Apple's doing it for a reason. And this is my reasoning. This is my critical thinking about it. But essentially, when you think about Apple Card, right, they have a credit card that they launched where anyone can essentially apply. Maybe it's exclusive. I wouldn't know. I mean, I have one because I worked for the company. So I don't like to use it. Honestly, it's not the best card in my opinion. But that being said, the high yield savings account is a thing that's interesting for everybody, right? Everyone wants the highest interest. But let me be honest, at 3.75 versus 4% versus 4.15%, all of them are close in range. And yes, they do make a big difference over time. But if we're only saving up to 3 years worth of cash, then the rest of that money should be invested in the stock market, which could gain more interest. Now, our goal is to keep it liquid, that money liquid. That's why we're putting in a high yield savings account. But it's the interest rate really doesn't matter. What matters is if it is FDIC insured. Is your savings account FDIC insured or NCUA? NCUA is for credit unions. Now, as we saw a few months ago with Silicon Valley Bank and everything, FDIC insurance covers up to $250,000 per account holder. Okay, so like if you have 3 accounts, you share one with a partner, you still get $250K on that account that you share with that partner. They also get $250K. So that being said, it is critical that you have the high yield savings account. The interest rate doesn't matter, but I wanted to make sure I brought to the point that with your high yield savings account, who you bank with is also important. That's something that I teach within my business, within my own beliefs, is that the banking institutions that I work with align with my values. Now, there's not a lot of them that really care about minorities, that really are putting an effort to bridge the wealth gap. I know that. There's no banking institution that I can name that is really doing a big impact like that. Or they're just being predatory and using our name for it. But that being said, make sure when you hear about all these new high yield savings account that the institution aligns with your values. For example, we have SoFi Bank. Right now, a lot of creators and a lot of individuals are not supporting SoFi Bank because they are one of the companies that is suing the government over the student loan debt relief program. Why would you want to fund your money to an institution that does not want you to have relief on your student loans? Right? That's why our values are really important. So with a high yield savings account, I always, in any account in general, always look at the banking institution that you're banking with. If you go to the stories on my Instagram, you can see that I have like consejos advised. You can see there's a few socially responsible banks. I'm going to pull it up so that I can name a few. This is not a ad for them or anything. This is just me just telling you that you need to align your finances with your values. I can name a few on the top of my head. So we have Ally Bank is one of them. Socially responsible banks. Now, the one thing I do want to say is that some of these banking institutions still do not take I-10, which is my biggest frustration with them. But there is banking institutions that do take I-10 and also take DACA individuals. So socially responsible banks, in this article is from bankbonus.com, best socially responsible banks. They list 14 here. So they went over if it's a B corporation or it's a global alliance for banking on values. So also I guess it's the community development financial institution is also another indicator if it's socially responsible. So we have a few that we want to list here. Aspiration Bank. Aspiration is actually a good one. It's all about, being eco-conscious, love the planet, etc. We have Capital One, Ally Bank, Discover Bank. I like Discover Bank, honestly. It's a great bank to get access to start building your credit. They have the best student credit cards. They do have a good checking account with rewards. They also have a high yield savings account as well. And some other credit unions, I like to mention credit unions because those are nonprofit banks. If you want to learn more about credit unions, make sure to answer the question below. But let's see, we have Alliant Credit Union, Clearwater Credit Union. Now, the only thing about these is some of them might not be fully online. That's the only thing that I'm looking at here. But we do have some banks that are socially responsible that really care about you. Some and most banks don't, but that's a whole different conversation in itself. But back to high yield savings accounts. High yield savings account, great option to start saving money, to put money away, whether it's $50, $25, similar to investing. This is growing with interest, but at least it is secured. The money that you have accrued over time does not get taken away. This is also, a lot of people ask me, is this a CD? Is a certificate of deposit? High yield savings accounts are not certificate of deposits because certificate of deposits are essentially, they say, you give me $5,000, we'll store it for 6 months and we're going to give you a 4% return. You cannot move that money in 6 months. If you do, there's like penalty, or they'll tell you you won't get the interest or something like along those lines. I remember I did a CD. It was like one of my first forms of investing was a certificate of deposit. But with a high yield savings account, you can take your money and move your money whenever you'd like. What I recommend is having a high yield savings account that's separate to your checking account so you don't see it and you're not constantly using it. One of the biggest issues that people do, or the things that people do that kind of bother me, and that just because they don't know, honestly, it's because you don't know. Our brain, if you see money in your savings account, it's only going to make you feel like you have that money to spend. If you have not trained your mind to understand that your savings is not supposed to be touched, it's supposed to be saved for a purpose, then I highly recommend that you get an external savings account that does not touch your current checking account, where it's not an easy transfer, easy Venmo, or easy Zelle. Okay. Some of you are like, what about emergencies? Yes. Maybe keep $500 as a baby emergency fund in your checking savings. Okay. It's not going to accrue any interest, or like in your bank savings, it's not going to accrue any big interest, but it's only there for like the baby emergencies that you quickly need it. Now, if you need something for big emergencies, then you'd obviously have to make those transfers in a bank account that's external to yours. So that being said, high yield savings accounts are one thing that you should have in your toolbox for your money, for your dinero, because it is so important that our money grows for us. And for literally, there is an article and I made a whole video about it. I'll make sure to put it in the podcast notes. But essentially, there's millions of dollars that the bank take away from us because we leave our money into this traditional savings account that they give us, and they just take that money and use it to make more money. Versus if we put in a high yield savings account, or maybe if we invested the lump sum of money, we would have higher interest and higher return for ourselves. Now, this is for all Americans. I'm not just saying Latinos, but something to take into perspective, right? I'm someone who, when I see stuff like that, I'm like, how could they be so greedy? But then I'm like, well, hello, we live in capitalistic America, where most people want their own financial gain at the end of the day. No one's really here to care for the little people. Now, that's why I'm here, right? But essentially, going back, I keep getting off topic, but with a high yield savings account, if you have any questions, if it seems scary, I'm telling you this, it's not scary. This is something that's been around for a long time, but just has made a lot of noise in the last year just because interest rates have been going up. Trust me, when the stock market's performing really well, we're going to be hearing a lot more about Roth IRAs, right? I think during the pandemic, everyone was talking about Roth IRAs, invest in your Roth IRA, invest. I mean, we still talk about it. It's still important, but now it's like high yield savings account, high yield savings account, high yield savings account. It is important. Take advantage of this high interest now versus when interest rates go back down, you're not going to have that high interest rate anymore. That's when, so you want to see this correlation. I learned this in my finance classes, right? But when you see that interest rates are going up for savings account, that means they want you to save more, right? They're trying to battle inflation. Inflation is now at 5%, which was 9% last year, right? The top was 9% last year. So they meaning the Fed, increased interest rates in order to battle inflation. So that means in this point in time, the stock market was not performing when interest rates were rising. As you can see, you can literally look S&P 500 trajectory for last year. It was not great. Last year, we did not have great returns, but you can see that when they want us to save more, the stock market's not going to perform well. But when they don't want us to save, they want us to invest. You're going to see the stock performance go up. So like, for example, during the pandemic, high yield savings account didn't have a huge interest or return. So no one was really talking about it during the pandemic. I have had a high yield savings account for 5 years. I was the first individual to kind of jump on board with Marcus because I worked for the company at that time, and Applecord. And so, yeah, I think I was 20 years old when I got my first high yield savings account. And I've seen the interest vary. So they go from, when I first started, it was like 2%. Everyone was like, oh my God, 2%. And then now it's at what it's at now, right? 3.75, 3.95, 3.85. At the end of the day, you're only going to get like a few dollars difference. So like I said, just pick one that aligns with your values. I like currently what I'm using. I have Ally savings account because I like the bucketing system. I love their high yield savings account because you have buckets that you can put it in all in one account. So like one account, you can have a bucket for your wedding. You can have a bucket for emergencies, the car, whatever. And then I have a Discover High Yield Savings account. I just like it because that's how me and my partner, we have a joint account with them. And so we can just have a high yield savings account together there. She also has an Ally bank account. What other high yield savings account? I used to have a Marcus account, but I deleted that hoe ever since I quit the bank. It's for personal values and reasons. But if you have a Marcus account, I'm not saying it's terrible. This is just more that aligns with my values and they don't. So with that being said, I have high yield savings accounts. I use them all the time. They're essential to your toolkit. And that is all. That is really all. I want you to take advantage of the high yield savings account. Don't stress about it. Just pick one. Pick one that's, if you're a bank with Discover, grab that one. If you're a bank with Ally, grab the high yield savings account there. If you like Capital One, great. Grab that one. Okay. You're going to see, especially now with what happened with Silicon Valley Bank, you're going to see all these traditional banks give incentives for you to give them their money because they need that money because of what happened. They're like, oh, we need more liquid cash. So this is just a little tip from Leah, is that you're going to be seeing, and I've seen it everywhere, like, we'll give you $1,000 if you deposit, $500. This is an example. This is not the accurate information. Okay. Do not fact check me on this, but like I saw another bank, I think it was Bank of America, was like, okay, if you have a business account and you put in X amount of dollars, they're going to give you $500 bonus or $1,000 bonus if you put $5,000 on over time. So they're going to be asking you for a lot of your money. These traditional banks, do not store it. No, just put it in a high yield savings account. I don't like these traditional banks being all creepy and wanting your money because now they don't have liquid cash and they're trying to be safe now because we have recession fears and everything going on right now. So make sure your money is gaining interest, and that is all. That is really all. Take advantage of that. You don't want to sleep on it, and tell your parents, tell your primas, tell your tios, because they probably don't know. They probably still have their money debajo del mattress, and we don't want that. We're here working on la riqueza. So that being said, that is all for today. I'm your host, Lia Landa Verde. Make sure to share this podcast with anyone, meaning your friends, your tias, your primas, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your fiance, your esposo, your esposa, anyone that you'd love to share this with. I release episodes every single Monday, and we do a little bit different here. We always have an episode of me, an interview, then me, an interview. So if you like this podcast, make sure to subscribe also on YouTube, because that's where you get to see my lovely face and me talking, and you can put it on your screen and just watch me while you cook. Also, don't forget to join the Riqueza Club. It is free. You can go to theriquezaclub.com, and I'll post it in the show notes for you to join. This is where we have a community where I let y'all know on my workshops. I let you know on my courses. I let y'all know if I have coaching availability. All of the good stuff is inside of the club. I even have a book club. I read now. I used to not like reading. So I do this for y'all so I can teach y'all the concepts of finance. The next book that we'll be reading, and probably reading when this episode releases, is Wealth Warrior by Linda Garcia. She is also a financial content creator. She focuses on investing in the stock market. Great book, great read. Make sure to read it with me inside the Riqueza Club. But thank you, and I'll see you there.